Jack sat in the cockpit of his small starship, looking out at the alien planet below. He had traveled far from Earth, searching for new worlds, new people, and new mysteries. This planet, called Erin, was far more interesting than any of the others he had explored. It was ancient, untouched, and full of secrets waiting to be discovered. But today something felt different. Today he was about to uncover something that no human had seen before. His guide, Lyra, a tall and graceful alien woman, had met him at the spaceport with a smile. She was from the planet's dominant species, known for their knowledge of the past and their respect for the old ways. Lyra had told Jack stories about Erin's ancient history, stories of a lost civilization that had built great structures across the planet. Most of these places were ruins now, but Lyra had found something special. She had found a pyramid. The pyramid was not like the ones Jack had seen in old Earth documentaries. It was massive, covered with strange symbols and designs that no one had ever been able to understand. Its surface shimmered in the sunlight as they stood before it, and Jack could feel a strange pull in the air, as if something important was waiting for them. "Are you sure this is it?" Jack asked, looking up at the towering pyramid. Lyra nodded. "Yes, Jack, this is the one. The pyramid has been here for centuries, maybe even longer, but no one has ever been able to open it. Said that only someone from outside the stars can unlock its secrets." Jack raised an eyebrow. "And you think that someone is me?" Lyra smiled. "I'm not sure, but I believe you're the one who can." Jack wasn't sure if he believed her. He'd been on many adventures, but nothing like this. It seemed impossible that a human, just like him, could be the key to something so ancient and powerful. But as Lyra led him closer to the pyramid, he couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. This was real. They were standing at the doorstep of history. The entrance to the pyramid was nothing like what Jack expected. There were no doors or windows, just a solid wall of stone with more symbols carved into it. At the center of the wall, there was a large indentation, a circle with strange markings. Jack couldn't help but reach out and touch it. Soon as his fingers brushed the surface, something amazing happened. A deep hum filled the air. The ground trembled beneath his feet, and for a moment, Jack thought he might be dreaming. The circle in the wall began to glow faintly, and then, with a soft grinding sound, the wall started to move. Slowly, the stone shifted, revealing a doorway into the pyramid. Jack stepped back, his heart racing. "What the hell?" Lyra gasped. It worked. It really worked. The door was open now, and a dark, shadowy passageway lay ahead. Jack felt a chill run down his spine as the air around them seemed to grow colder. But he couldn't turn away. The mystery was just beginning. He had to know what was inside. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes wide with awe. "No one has ever opened this door, not in all the centuries it has been here. I don't understand how this is possible." Jack's eyes lingered on the opening, his mind racing. "Is this what you were expecting?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, but no. I thought this would take years of study. I never thought it would happen like this, not so suddenly. But you, Jack, you did it. You opened the door." Jack wasn't sure how to feel. He didn't think of himself as special. He was just a simple explorer, someone who wandered from planet to planet. But now, standing here in front of this ancient structure, he couldn't deny the weight of the moment. This pyramid, with its strange power, had been waiting for someone like him to come along. Lyra turned to him. "We should go inside. There's no telling what we might find. This could change everything." Jack hesitated for a moment. He had been on many worlds, seen many strange things, but something about this place felt different. It was ancient. It was powerful. And it was calling to him. He took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, let's do it." Together, they stepped into the pyramid. The air inside was cold and still, and the walls seemed to pulse with a faint energy. As their footsteps echoed in the silence, Jack's eyes darted around the dark chamber. He could see nothing but stone walls and strange patterns etched into the surfaces. But he could feel something big, waiting just beyond what was visible. Lyra led the way, her movements graceful despite the dark. The pyramid was built by an ancient race that disappeared long ago. The legends say they had knowledge beyond our comprehension, a power that could change the entire galaxy. Jack looked at her, trying to make sense of it. You think that power is still here? Lyra nodded. Yes, it's here, hidden inside. This pyramid holds the secrets of a lost civilization. And now, with you, we may be able to uncover them. They continued down the hallway, their footsteps the only sound in the stillness. Jack was filled with anticipation and fear in equal measure. Whatever lay ahead could be something amazing or something terrible. But there was no turning back now. He had already opened the door. "Do you feel that?" Jack asked, his voice barely a whisper. "It's like the pyramid is alive." Lyra glanced at him, her expression serious. "I feel it too. It's the power of the pyramid. It's waiting." They reached the end of the hallway, where a large chamber opened before them. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it a glowing object, a crystal, perhaps, or something far more advanced. Its light pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. Jack took a step toward it, drawn to its glow. As his hand reached out to touch it, he suddenly felt a strange sensation in the air. The room grew colder. Crystal flickered, its glow dimming. Something was happening. Jack was about to find out what. Jack stood frozen in the dark chamber, his fingers just a few inches away from the glowing crystal. The room seemed to hum with energy, and the air around him felt thicker, almost as if the pyramid itself was alive, breathing. He felt a strange mix of excitement and fear, but he couldn't stop himself. He had to know what would happen next. Lyra, standing just behind him, watched him closely. Her eyes were wide with wonder, but there was also a hint of concern in her gaze. She had told him that this pyramid was a place of immense power, but she had never imagined this moment would come so soon, and certainly not like this. "What is it?" Jack whispered, more to himself than to her. "It's the heart of the pyramid," Lyra replied quietly. "The source of the power that has been sealed away for centuries. No one has ever been able to approach it before." Jack's breath caught in his throat. He had always heard stories of lost civilizations, the ancient powers that could change the world. Never in his wildest dreams had he thought he would be standing here. On the brink of discovering such a secret, he slowly reached forward, his fingers trembling slightly as they made contact with the smooth surface of the crystal. The moment his hand touched it, the room seemed to come alive. A pulse of energy shot through the air, and Jack felt a shockwave of heat and light wash over him. For a split second, he felt as if the universe itself was stretching around him, opening up in ways he couldn't even begin to understand. "Jack," Lyra called out, her voice filled with alarm. "Get away from it. It's too dangerous." But Jack couldn't move. His hand was still resting on the crystal, and the energy it was giving off was too strong to ignore. He felt a deep connection to it, as if it was calling to him, pulling him closer. It was as though the crystal recognized him, as though it had been waiting for him all along. For a few heart-stopping moments, nothing happened. The chamber was silent, the glowing crystal dimming slightly. Then, with a deep rumble, the ground beneath Jack's feet began to shake. The walls seemed to bend and twist, and the ceiling groaned with the weight of ancient stone. Jack's heart raced as he tried to pull his hand away, but the crystal held him in place. Lyra was shouting something at him, but Jack couldn't hear her over the roar of energy filling the room. His whole body felt alive, buzzing with electricity, and a voice low and powerful whispered in his mind. It wasn't a sound, but a feeling. A thought that seemed to come from deep within the crystal itself. "You are the key." The words echoed in his mind, clear as day. He could feel their meaning, even if he didn't fully understand them.
Ow.
With a final, forceful push of energy, the crystal began to pull him closer, its light flaring brightly. In that instant, everything stopped. The ground stopped shaking. The light dimmed. Jack staggered back, his hand releasing the crystal as if it had burned him. He stumbled, disoriented, and nearly fell to the floor. His heart was pounding, and his mind was racing with questions, but one thought stood out above all others. What just happened? Lyra rushed to his side, her face pale with fear. "Jack, are you okay? What did you do?" I don't know," he stammered. "I touched it, and then it just He looked around the room, half expecting the pyramid to collapse around them. But everything seemed still. The hum in the air had died down, and the crystal now sat quietly on its pedestal, its glow faint. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Silence was heavy, filled with uncertainty. Then, something changed. With a soft click, the walls of the chamber began to shift. A section of the floor began to move, and an ancient door slid open in the back of the room, revealing a passageway leading deeper into the pyramid. The air smelled different, now strange, almost electric, as if the entire structure had awakened. Lyra gasped. "That's never happened before. The pyramid is reacting to you, Jack. It's responding to you." Jack couldn't believe it. What had just occurred? What had he unlocked? He turned to look at Lyra, who was staring at the open doorway with wide eyes. "Lyra, what's happening?" "I don't know." "But the pyramid. It's alive, Jack. It has been waiting for someone to unlock its secrets. And now that you've done it, ... we need to go deeper." Her voice was full of awe and fear. Jack didn't know whether to feel the same or not. The power he had just felt was overwhelming. And now this door was open, waiting for them to enter. "Are you sure we should go in?" Jack asked. "What if it's dangerous?" Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "I don't know what lies ahead, but I do know. We've only seen a fraction of what this pyramid holds. If we're going to understand it, we have to go further. We can't stop now." Jack hesitated, staring at the passage ahead. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing on him. The door was open, and there was no turning back. He had already touched the crystal. He had already set this chain of events in motion. Taking a deep breath, Jack stepped forward. "Then let's go. Let's see what's inside." Lyra followed closely behind him, her steps light but filled with purpose. As they moved deeper into the pyramid, Jack could feel the air growing colder, the walls stretching higher and higher. The tunnels seemed to go on forever, twisting and turning, leading them down into the heart of the pyramid. The further they went, the more Jack felt as though they were being watched. There was something ancient here, something alive, waiting. He could almost hear whispers in the air, faint echoes of voices from a time long past. It was as if the pyramid itself was telling him its story, sharing its secrets, but only if he was ready to listen. After what felt like hours of walking, they finally reached another chamber. This one was vast, larger than any room they had entered so far. In the center of the room stood a massive structure, a throne-like chair surrounded by strange, glowing symbols. The walls were covered in intricate carvings, and in the air, Jack could feel a strange, pulsing energy, as though the pyramid was alive and aware of their presence. Lyra stopped beside him, her breath catching in her throat. "This is it," she whispered. "This is the heart of the pyramid. The power is here." Jack looked around, trying to make sense of it all. He could feel the energy in the room drawing him in as if the pyramid was reaching out to him once. More, he didn't know what to expect, but he knew that whatever lay ahead would change everything, and he was ready to face it. With one last look at Lyra, Jack stepped forward toward the throne-like structure and reached out to touch it. The moment his fingers brushed against it, the air around them crackled, and the pyramid's true power began to reveal itself. As Jack's fingers brushed the surface of the strange throne-like structure, the air around him seemed to hold its breath. A deep hum filled the chamber, and the glowing symbols along the walls pulsed with an eerie light. It was as if the entire pyramid was coming alive around him. Lyra stood close by, her eyes wide with awe and uncertainty, watching Jack closely. For a moment, nothing happened. Jack stood frozen, his hands still resting on the smooth surface of the throne. Then, without warning, the symbols on the walls flashed brightly, and the ground beneath their feet trembled slightly. The air grew thicker, heavy with an energy that Jack couldn't fully comprehend. His heart raced as the walls began to shift, revealing a hidden doorway in the back of the chamber. The door opened slowly, silently, as if it had been waiting for centuries for this moment. Beyond it lay a narrow passageway, lit by a faint, otherworldly glow. Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. This was no ordinary doorway. It was a gateway to something ancient, something powerful. "Lyra," Jack whispered, his voice barely audible. "Do you think we should go through?" Lyra stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the dark passage ahead. "There's no turning back now, so whatever lies beyond this door, it's meant for us to find. We've come this far. We have to know what's inside." Jack nodded, his hand still resting on the throne, his fingers tingling with an almost electric charge. The power of the pyramid seemed to seep into him, filling his body with an overwhelming sense of urgency. He took a deep breath, steeling himself, and then stepped forward into the doorway. Lyra followed closely behind him, her footsteps silent but determined. The passageway was narrow, winding through the stone with no clear direction. The walls were smooth and cool to the touch, the air thick with the scent of ancient dust. Footsteps echoed in the silence as they moved deeper into the heart of the pyramid. Every turn, every corner they passed, seemed to lead them further into a mystery that neither of them could have predicted as they continued. Jack's mind raced with questions. What was this place? Who had built it and why? And most importantly, what was the power that Lyra had spoken of? The pyramid had been hidden for so long, and now, somehow Jack had opened its secrets. But why him? What did it all mean? Finally, after what felt like hours of walking, they reached another chamber. This one was larger than the last, the walls stretching high above them. The air in the room was colder, the temperature dropping with each step they took. In the center of the room stood a massive structure, taller than anything Jack had ever seen. It looked like a massive ancient altar, carved from the stone itself. The symbols from the previous chamber were etched into every surface of the altar, glowing faintly with the same eerie light. In front of the altar stood a pedestal, and upon it rested a crystal much larger than the one they had seen earlier. The crystal pulsed with energy, its light brighter and more intense than anything Jack had ever imagined. It was beautiful, but it was also terrifying. There was something about it that felt wrong. Jack stepped forward, drawn to the crystal, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel its power, calling to him, urging him to come closer. It was as if the crystal knew he was the one who had unlocked the pyramid's secrets. It was as if it had been waiting for him. Lyra stepped beside him, her expression filled with awe and fear. "This is it," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper. "The heart of the pyramid, the power it contains. It's unimaginable." Didn't respond, couldn't tear his gaze away from the crystal. He could feel its pull, and he knew that there was no turning back. This was the moment. Whatever happened next would change everything. Slowly, cautiously, Jack reached out and touched the crystal. The moment his fingers made contact, the entire room seemed to explode with light. The energy was so intense, it felt as though his very soul was being pulled into the crystal. The air crackled with power, and Jack felt a wave of heat wash over him, as if he were standing in the heart of a star. The light grew blinding. And for a moment, Jack couldn't see anything. He could hear Lyra's voice, distant and faint, calling his name, but it sounded like it was coming from far away. He tried to move, tried to pull his hand away from the crystal, but it was as if the pyramid had a hold on him, locking him in place. Then, as quickly as it had started, the light faded. The energy in the room settled, leaving Jack standing there, his hands still on the crystal. His breath was ragged, and his heart was racing. He felt as though he had just experienced something beyond his comprehension. "Jack." Lyra's voice was clear now, filled with panic. "Are you okay?" Jack turned to look at her, his body shaking from the intensity of the experience. I don't know. It was like nothing I've ever felt before." Lyra rushed to his side, her eyes filled with concern. "Hey, you should have never touched it. The power of the pyramid, it's not meant for us." Jack shook his head, still trying to process what had just happened. "But I felt something. Like the pyramid was trying to tell me something." It's like it wanted me to before he could finish his sentence. A loud rumbling filled the room. The floor beneath their feet began to tremble, and the walls shifted once again. Jack and Lyra both looked up in alarm as the chamber seemed to come alive. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter, and the ground shook more violently. A section of the ceiling cracked, and pieces of stone began to fall around them. Entire pyramid was reacting, and Jack realized, with a growing sense of dread, that it wasn't just reacting to the crystal, it was reacting to him. "We need to leave," Lyra shouted, grabbing Jack's arm and pulling him toward the exit. But Jack didn't move. His feet were rooted to the floor, his mind still trying to process what had just happened. He had touched the crystal, and now the pyramid was alive, reacting to him in ways he couldn't understand. As Lyra pulled at his arm, Jack glanced back at the crystal. It was no longer glowing, but the power he had felt still lingered in the air, filling the chamber with an oppressive weight. Something had changed, and he knew deep down that whatever came next would be far more dangerous than anything they had faced so far. The ground beneath Jack's feet continued to shake, and the walls of the chamber seemed to shift in slow motion. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the air felt heavier, as though the pyramid itself was reacting to the power that Jack had unleashed. He felt an unease settling in his chest, but despite the fear creeping in, a part of him still felt drawn to the crystal. It wasn't just a thing, it felt alive, as though it had been waiting for him to unlock its secrets. Lyra's grip tightened on his arm as she pulled him away from the altar. "We need to go, Jack," she urged, her voice trembling with urgency. "This is too dangerous." But Jack couldn't move. His feet felt as if they were glued to the ground. The pyramid's energy was overwhelming, and the pull of the crystal was undeniable. He could feel it calling to him, its presence like a whisper in his mind. "You are the key," the voice echoed again, but this time it was stronger, clearer. It wasn't just in his head. It felt like the pyramid itself was speaking to him, urging him to understand, to embrace the power it offered. "I can't leave," Jack whispered, his voice barely audible. "It's trying to tell me something." Lyra stopped in her tracks, looking back at him with wide eyes. "No, Jack. The pyramid doesn't want you to understand. It wants to control you. This is the power of an ancient race, a race that destroyed itself with their technology. You don't know what you're messing with." Her words only deepened the sense of dread that was already swirling in Jack's mind. The knowledge Lyra had shared with him about the pyramid's origins made sense now. This was a relic from a race that had once been powerful beyond measure. But in their pursuit of power, they had destroyed themselves. Oh, man. And now, this pyramid, this ancient technology, was in his hands. The rumbling grew louder, and Jack finally pulled his hand away from the crystal. For a moment, everything went silent. The light dimmed, and the hum of energy stopped. The feeling in the room shifted from oppressive to strangely still. Jack looked at Lyra, whose face was full of concern and fear. "I think you're right," Jack said, his voice steady but filled with regret. "I shouldn't have touched it. I don't understand what's happening, but I can feel the power. I don't want it to consume me." But as he turned to follow Lyra back to the exit, something else happened. A deep rumble shook the pyramid, and the stone walls began to glow with an even brighter light than before. The air thickened with energy, and Jack could feel the ground beneath his feet trembling once again. "No," Lyra whispered, her voice shaking. "It's not over. It's only just begun." A section of the wall in front of them began to shift, revealing an enormous door. It was unlike anything they had seen before. The door was covered in the same strange symbols that had decorated the rest of the pyramid, but they were glowing brighter now, as though they were alive. Reaching out to Jack, Lyra stepped back, her hand pressing against her chest as she gasped. "For air, this shouldn't be happening. The pyramid only opens when the chosen one is ready. But you... you weren't supposed to activate it. You weren't supposed to awaken it like this." Jack's eyes were wide with fear as he stared at the door. He didn't know what was behind it, but he knew it was something powerful, something ancient. And yet he couldn't tear his eyes away from it. Something deep within him urged him to move forward, to see what lay on the other side. "This is not the way it was supposed to be," Lyra continued, her voice filled with both fear and sorrow. "You've awakened the core of the pyramid, Jack. There's no turning back now. Whatever's behind that door. ... It could change the galaxy, and we may not be able to stop it." Jack swallowed hard, trying to push away the fear that had begun to creep into his mind. The power of the pyramid was so overwhelming it felt like it was suffocating him. But at the same time, a strange sense of purpose stirred within him. He wasn't sure what was happening, but he knew that he had been brought here for a reason. "I have to go in," Jack said, his voice steady, though his heart was racing. "I don't know why, but I feel like I have to see what's on the other side of that door. The pyramid. It's calling to me." Lyra shook her head, fear and worry etched on her face. Do you don't know what you're dealing with? There's a reason no one has been able to open that door for centuries. Power inside could destroy us all. If you go in, you might not come back out." Jack's resolve hardened as he stepped forward. The door loomed before him, the symbols glowing brighter with each step he took. He had come this far, and now there was no turning back. Lyra hesitated but finally followed him, her footsteps uncertain as she kept a few paces behind him. When Jack reached the door, he felt the energy in the air growing stronger, more intense. He could hear a soft whisper in his mind again. "You are the one. You have unlocked the path. Go forward, and the galaxy will be yours." He reached out and placed his hand on the door. The moment he touched it, the ground beneath them shook violently. A brilliant flash of light exploded from the door, and the air around them crackled with raw power. Jack stumbled back, shielding his eyes from the blinding light. "Jack," Lyra cried out, grabbing his arm to steady him. "It's too much. We can't control it." But Jack was already reaching out again, determined to see what lay beyond the door. The light dimmed, and the door slowly began to open, revealing what lay hidden inside. Beyond the door was a vast chamber unlike anything they had seen before. It was filled with strange machinery, pulsating with energy, and at the center stood a massive, glowing structure that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The air felt alive with energy, and the room seemed to hum with a power that Jack couldn't even begin to understand. This was the heart of the pyramid. This was what had been hidden for centuries, and now it was within his reach. But as Jack took a step forward into the chamber, he felt a chill run down his spine. The power here was far beyond anything he had ever known. And though it was calling to him, part of him feared what would happen if he took the next step. Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. "This is it, Jack. The power of the ancients. Do you realize what you've done?" Jack turned to look at her, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "I don't know, but we're here now, and we can't turn back." The chamber stretched out before Jack, its vast expanse filled with strange, glowing machinery that hummed with a low, steady rhythm. The air felt charged with energy, and every step Jack took echoed in the vast room, amplifying the silence that surrounded them. At the center of the room stood the massive structure, glowing with an otherworldly light. It seemed to pulse with life, its surface shifting and changing in ways that defied logic. Jack's heart raced as he moved closer to it, drawn by the mysterious power that emanated from within. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes wide with both awe and fear. She had never seen anything like this before. This was beyond even her understanding. The pyramid had been a place of great power, but this chamber, this structure, felt different. It was as though the very fabric of reality was bending around them, warping to accommodate the ancient force that resided here. "This is," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. "This is what the ancients left behind. But I never thought we'd find it. I never thought it would be ... This Jack glanced at her, his mind racing. "What is it? What does it do?" Lyra shook her head, her face filled with uncertainty. "I don't know." The texts spoke of it, but they were vague. They called it the heart of the pyramid. It's said to be the source of all the power here, but it was always locked away, hidden from the galaxy. The ancients must have known what they were dealing with. This kind of power is dangerous. Jack took a deep breath. He had been walking into the unknown since the moment he arrived on Erin, But standing here now, so close to the heart of the pyramid, felt different. He could feel the power its weight pressing down on him, urging him to reach out and touch it to unlock its secrets. As Jack stepped forward, a sudden noise broke the silence. It was distant at first, barely audible, but it grew louder, sharper. The ground beneath their feet vibrated, and Jack's instincts told him that something was wrong. He turned to Lyra, his face tight with concern. "What's happening?" asked, his voice tinged with panic. "What's that sound?" Lyra's face drained of color as she listened, her eyes wide with alarm. "It's them." "Who?" "The invaders." Jack's heart skipped a beat. He had heard rumors of a ruthless, alien species, one that sought to control powerful technologies like the one hidden in the pyramid, but he had dismissed them as nothing more than stories. Now, it seemed, those stories were true. "The Corians," Lyra continued, her voice steady but filled with fear. "They've been searching for this pyramid for years. They know what it holds, and they'll stop at nothing to get it." Before Jack could respond, a blinding flash of light suddenly filled the room. The sound of ships roaring through the atmosphere echoed from above, and the ground beneath their feet shook once again.
Lyra
stumbled back, her eyes wide with terror. "They're here," she whispered, almost in disbelief. "They've found us." Jack gritted his teeth, his mind racing. The Corians had arrived. He had hoped that they would be able to explore the pyramid in peace, but now the situation was far more dire. The power they had unlocked was not just valuable, it was dangerous. And now, the Corians were determined to take it for themselves. "Lyra," Jack said, his voice firm, "we need to get out of here. Now." But Lyra shook her head, her eyes filled with determination. "We can't leave now. We can't let them take it. Power inside this pyramid, this is our only chance to protect our people." Jack stared at her for a moment, unsure of what to do. He had come here to explore, to uncover the mysteries of the pyramid, but now it was a matter of survival. He didn't know how they could stop the Corians, but they had to try. They couldn't let this ancient power fall into the wrong hands. Suddenly, the chamber was filled with a loud, metallic clang, followed by a series of sharp clicks. The massive doors that had opened to reveal the heart of the pyramid slammed shut, locking them inside. Jack spun around, his pulse quickening as he realized what was happening. "They've locked us in," he shouted, his voice rising in panic. "We need to find another way out." But Lyra's gaze was fixed on the glowing structure in the center of the room. The power within it was intensifying, and she could feel it, just as Jack could. The pyramid was responding to the threat to the Corians who were closing in. It was as if the pyramid itself was waking up, ready to defend itself. "This isn't just about us anymore," Lyra said, her voice full of urgency. "The pyramid is reacting to the danger. It's awake now, Jack. It won't let them take it." Jack's mind raced. What was Lyra saying? Was the pyramid truly capable of defending itself? And if it was, what would that mean for them? "Understand," Jack said, shaking his head. "How can it defend itself?" Lyra stepped closer to the center of the room, her eyes fixed on the glowing structure. "I don't know, but it's not just a source of power. It's a weapon. The ancients built it to protect their knowledge, to protect their secrets. Now that we've awakened it, it's responding to the threat." Jack swallowed hard. "So, we're stuck here, in the middle of a war between us and the Corians, with an ancient weapon on our side?" Lyra nodded, her face grim. "Exactly, and we don't know what it will do." As if to answer her, the glowing structure at the center of the room suddenly pulsed with a violent burst of light. The walls of the chamber shook violently, and a deafening roar filled the air. Jack and Lyra were thrown to the ground, their bodies slamming against the cold stone floor. The power of the pyramid was rising to a new level, and they could feel it in every fiber of their being. "What's happening?" Jack yelled, struggling to stand as the room continued to tremble. "It's starting," Lyra gasped, her voice strained with effort. "The pyramid is activating. The weapon is waking up." Jack barely had time to react before a massive blast of energy erupted from the structure, shooting up toward the ceiling. The pyramid's power surged outward, ripping through the stone walls and sending shockwaves through the chamber. The ground beneath them cracked open. and the walls buckled under the pressure. Through the chaos, Jack and Lyra struggled to stay. On their feet, the pyramid was no longer just a source of power, it had become a force of nature, and it was responding to the Corians' attack. But as Jack looked toward the entrance to the chamber, he saw the dark shapes of the Corian soldiers. Approaching, they had come to take the pyramid's power for themselves. And now, the battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin. The pyramid's power surged through the chamber, its light blinding and overwhelming. Jack and Lyra had no choice but to shield their eyes as the room trembled beneath their feet. The walls were cracking, and the air was thick with energy, vibrating. With a force that threatened to tear the structure apart, Jack felt a deep sense of urgency. He knew that whatever was happening inside the pyramid was beyond their control. As the pyramid's energy intensified, a loud explosion rocked the chamber. Stone shrapnel flew through the air, and a deep, guttural roar filled the room.
Jack's heart raced.
The Corians were closing in, and he could feel the ground shifting beneath him, the room reacting as if it were alive, sensing the danger. "We need to move," Lyra shouted over the roar of the pyramid's power, her face filled with panic.
Oh yeah.
Grabbed Jack's arm, pulling him toward the entrance. The pyramid's awakening. It's only a matter of time before it completely unleashes its power. Jack barely registered her words. His mind was racing. He had opened the pyramid, but now he didn't know what to do. The power was growing stronger, and with it, the feeling that they were all about to be caught in something far bigger than themselves. The Corians, the pyramid, the weapon, it was all coming to a head. But as they turned toward the exit, the massive doors of the chamber slammed shut, blocking their way. Jack and Lyra froze, staring at the solid stone doors. The ground beneath them rumbled again, louder this time, and the pyramid's glow flickered, its energy pulsating as if it were alive, reacting to the approaching danger. Jack rushed to the door, pushing with all his strength, but it didn't budge. The stone was solid, impenetrable. The pyramid was locking them in. "What is it doing?" Jack gasped, turning to Lyra. "Why won't it let us out?" Lyra was breathing heavily, her face pale with fear. "The pyramid isn't just protecting itself," she said slowly. "It's protecting you, Jack. You've activated it. The power of the ancients is now linked to you." Jack's mind raced as he processed her words. He had become part of this ancient power, part of the pyramid's defense system. And now, it was reacting to the Corians' threat. The pyramid was not just a weapon, it had become a shield, an entity that would stop at nothing to protect itself, and those it deemed worthy. "But we can't stay here," Jack said, his voice tight with urgency. "The Corians are coming, and if this pyramid is really as powerful as you say it is, it's going to destroy them all. We have to find a way out." Lyra, she shook her head, her eyes full of uncertainty. "I don't think we can stop it now. The pyramid's power is too strong. The Corians won't be able to touch it, but that doesn't mean we're safe." Jack clenched his fists, the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. He had come to this planet looking for adventure, for answers, but now he realized that this wasn't just about exploration, it was about survival. The pyramid was too powerful for anyone to control, but somehow he had triggered it. And now he had to live with the consequences. Before he could speak, a voice filled the chamber, low and deep. It was a voice like nothing Jack had ever heard before. A voice that seemed to come from the very walls of the pyramid itself. "You are the one. The key has been unlocked. Power is yours." The words echoed in Jack's mind, sending a chill down his spine. He stumbled backward, his hands shaking as he tried to comprehend what had just happened. He had thought the pyramid was merely a structure, a place of ancient knowledge, but now it seemed as though it was alive, aware of him, connected to him in a way he didn't fully understand. "Jack, what is it saying?" Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. Jack shook his head. "I don't know, but it's telling me I'm the key, that I unlocked its power, and now we're stuck here." The voice continued, the words becoming clearer. "More urgent, the Corians approach. They seek the power you hold.
Act the heart.
Or the galaxy will fall." Jack's heart pounded in his chest as the voice filled the chamber. The pyramid's power surged again, and the walls of the room trembled, the stone shifting as if the structure were alive. The voice, though distant, was clear in its warning. Defend the power. Protect what you have awakened. Lyra's eyes widened. This is it, Jack. The pyramid is choosing you.
Ow.
It wants you to fight to protect its secrets. If you don't, the Corians will use it for their own destruction. Jack's mind was spinning. The Corians were coming, and the pyramid was asking him to fight to protect the power he had awakened. It was asking him to become the protector of an ancient weapon that could change the course of the galaxy. He didn't know if he was ready for that responsibility, didn't know if he could stop the Corians from taking what was not theirs. But he also knew one thing. He couldn't let the power of the pyramid fall into the wrong hands. Not after everything that had happened, not after the Corians had come so close to destroying it. We have to stop them, Jack said, his voice steady now, his resolve hardening. I don't know how, but I'm not letting them take it. Not without a fight. Lyra nodded, her eyes filled with determination. We fight together then. We've awakened the pyramid's power, and now we must use it. If we can't stop them, we'll make sure they don't take it. Jack turned toward the glowing structure in the center of the room. The pyramid's energy was surging now, its light brighter than before, pulsing with life. He could feel it, the power that flowed through the stone, through the very air around him. It was overwhelming, but it was also something he could no longer ignore. It was his responsibility now. The Corians would not have the pyramid, not if he had any say in it. Let's do this, Jack said, his voice full of resolve. We protect the pyramid. We protect the galaxy. The power of the pyramid surged around them, the ancient force awakening fully, ready to defend itself. And as Jack stood there, knowing what was at stake, he made a decision. He would fight for the pyramid. For Lyra. For the galaxy.